Well, welcome back to the kitchen here on the Fat Daddy Sports Podcast. I am your Fat Daddy host, Craig, and today we are going to be taking a look at a mock draft for the 2026 fantasy football season from the pick 101. This is a position over the years that I have really not liked. I know that a lot of people like to have that first pick so that you have your pick of the entire board. I do not like being on the ends, whether it's at the beginning or the end of a draft. I don't like having to wait so many picks in between my picks. You have to be kind of strategic because it's going to be so many before it gets back to you. This is a position that I do tend to reach for a quarterback or a tight end. But regardless of where you're at in the draft, you have to stay fluid. You have to let the draft come to you and just see where other guys take people and what falls to you, where you can make moves. But enough talking about it. Let's just get into it. And we're going to be on Sleeper today. So this is going to be a 12-team PPR format. 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, a tight end, and 4 bench spots, just so that we can get out of here a little bit quicker. Smaller roster sizes, don't need to be picking forever. You don't need to see me draft a defense or a kicker. Let's get into it. Let me share my screen with you here. We've got the 101 pick here, 12-team league. So with the number 1 overall pick, the consensus this year is to take one of Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson, the top 2 running backs in fantasy football right now. And that is where a lot of people want to go with it. In a PPR format, I could make the case for taking Jamar Chase as well, or Puka Nacua. I think any of those first 4 you would be okay taking in a full PPR league. However, to me, I think that gap between running back 2 and running back 3 is a lot wider than wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3. I think that you can get a lot of good wide receiver value in those middle rounds this year. And so I am going to go with the running back position. You could make the case for either one of these guys. Personally, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is just out of this world. I think that he is going to break records this year. He's going to be the number 1 fantasy running back by far this year. I love Bijan Robinson, don't get me wrong, but if I'm here on the clock with the 101, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs all day without even hesitating. Here we go. See the rest of this round kind of play out. We've got Bijan, JSN, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Drake London, Justin Jefferson, Lamb, Walker, Genty. St. Brown falls all the way to the beginning of the second round, which seems like a mistake to me. I don't know how he goes after guys like Jefferson and London. Very strange, but that's what you get in these mock drafts. If you're not drafting against live humans, you get some skewed results that you kind of have to take with a grain of salt. But the more that you do, the more different looks you get, and the better that you have an idea going into your draft. So if I had any advice for you, it's to do a lot of mock drafts, do them on different sites, try to do them on your specific site that you're playing on. But if you are in multiple leagues across different sites, obviously do one or do multiple in all of your different sites. For me, most of my leagues are on Sleeper, and so that's where I spend a lot of my time doing mock drafts. But you do get these crazy results where Amon-Ra St. Brown falls to the second round. If I'm this guy and I just started CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra, holy smokes, I'm loving life right now. I will definitely load up on running backs at that position now because my receivers are loaded. But anyway, St. Brown goes at the 202. Saquon Barkley, Jeremiah Love early in the second round. I've talked about my feelings on that. But Devon Achane goes next. Malik Neighbors, Omarion Hampton, Chase Brown, Trey McBride, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs. So now it comes back to me. At the end of the second round, we took Jahmyr Gibbs in that first pick overall. So naturally, I like to look at receiver. I like to personally be more balanced myself. This is where things get tricky because you've got so many picks before it comes back to me here, and you're looking at this 12-team league. I could go Brock Bowers here. I've obviously got 2 picks in a row, so it doesn't really matter who I take with the first pick and the second pick. They're both coming to me. If I'm looking at this draft right now, I probably am going to go. Oh, let's see what running backs are here. Okay. So, as much as I love Brock Bowers and I love having that tight end security early in the draft, man, I'm going to go with A.J. Brown, a guy that I have really hyped up this offseason, a guy that I really love his upside this year in New England with Drake May and the deep ball. I think he's going to get a ton of work, and a guy that I love as my wide receiver 1. And now the question for me is not running back. I'm okay with Jahmyr Gibbs as my anchor there. My question now becomes, do I take Brock Bowers at that tight end position, or do I take another wide receiver, a guy like Nico Collins? George Pickens feels a little too steep for me there. Chris Olave, I don't really love. Rashee Rice. I could make the case for that because I'm a homer and I love the Chiefs, but I think between Nico and Brock Bowers for me is where I'm leaning. I'm going to space it out and I'm going to go with Brock Bowers. That's really hard to say for some reason, but we'll go with the balance attack of Jahmyr Gibbs, A.J. Brown, and Brock Bowers to start my draft. As the draft goes on, you've got Nico Collins was the next pick, so I guess I wasn't too far off on that. Josh Allen, first quarterback off the board. Olave, Pickens, Rice, Kyron, Travis Etienne, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, Tedero McMillan, Javonte Williams, Ibuka, Lamar, the second quarterback taken, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Colston Loveland, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Luther Burden, and Ladd McConkey. So now it comes back to me at the end of the 4th round here, and I am immediately looking at who are the running backs that are sitting there that I could take. There's a long list of guys that I really love here. Travion Henderson, love the talent, don't necessarily love that situation. I still think Stevenson is going to be very involved there, maybe even the running back 1. I'm scared to death to take Travion Henderson this year, but I love Cam Skattebo. I love Quinshon Judkins. I love David Montgomery, and I love Bashal Tutin and even DeAndre Swift. Those guys are maybe going to be there at the next pick, some of those guys at the tail end. But now I'm looking as a whole here at the quarterback position because, like I said, I'm going to pick 2 here, and then I'm going to have to wait 24 picks until it comes back to me. So for me, looking at this, what wide receivers are here? Jameson Williams, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Carnell Tate. I just think that there's a lot of value in the 6th, 7th, 8th round at wide receiver. We'll see how this one shakes out. Obviously, a big wide receiver run in this round. We had Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Luther Burden, and Ladd McConkey all went right before me. So had any of those guys fallen, it might change my opinion a little bit, and I would take one of those 4 or 5 guys. Unfortunately, they didn't, and the best available receiver now is Jameson Williams, who I'm not a huge fan of. I love the talent, love his explosive plays for the Lions, but I don't necessarily want to rely on him as my wide receiver 2 week in and week out. So I will look at the running back position. I'm thinking about maybe the quarterback position here with Drake May. I just think I can wait a little bit on the quarterback position in a 12-team league. I still think I can get some value here in a few rounds. So I'm going to look at the running back position to pair with Jahmyr Gibbs. I am going to go with Cam Skattebo as my running back 2, and then I'm going to keep it balanced. You'll see a theme here in this. By nature, I like to have balanced teams. I know a lot of people go with the hero RB or the zero RB or hero zero wide receiver, whatever. I personally have always just tried to keep it balanced. And It's worked out for me in the past. I know that there's a lot of data that support this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, you got to take the best player at your pick. And you can't go into a draft thinking, I'm not taking any running backs. I'm only taking receivers to start. Because if guys fall to you, you have to be fluid and you have to adapt with the draft. If you have it so set on your mind that you're going to take a guy and he gets taken the pick or two before you, you can't get flustered in that, minute and a half time frame that you have to make a pick. You have to stay fluid. You have to look at the draft board. You have to see who the best available players are, and you have to make that pick. For me, a guy here that I really love as my wide receiver too. I think he's going to get a ton of work. I've talked about him in plenty of videos, and it's Mike Evans. He is 100 years old, and he's going to catch 1 million touchdowns this year in San Francisco for the 49ers. Maybe a little bit of a reach, but again, he's not going to be there when it comes back to me. So if you have those guys in your draft that you love, you got to go out and get them. We'll go and get Mike Evans here. They will follow it up with Jamison Williams, Travion, Drake May, Judkins, Burrow, David Montgomery, Tyler Warren, Hurts, McLaurin, DJ Moore, Tucker Kraft, Jaden Daniels, Carnell Tate, Bashal Tootin, DeAndre Swift, Christian Watson, Jordan Tyson, Harold Fannin, RJ Harvey, Jalen Warren. In the late 6th round, Brian Thomas Jr. and Mekhi Lemon all go right before me. So we're back to us here at the end of the 6th round and the first pick of the 7th round. So my immediate thought is, okay, I've got 2 wide receivers, I've got 2 running backs, and I've got a tight end. What are the available quarterbacks that are out there? The best available right now is Jackson Dart. With an ADP of 80.6. I look at the rest of the league. Let's see who all has a quarterback. We've got team 2 does not have a quarterback. Team 5 does not have a quarterback. Team 7, team 8, team 11. So you've got what is that? 5 teams that don't have a quarterback right now. So in those picks on the way out and on the way back, there's probably 10 chances of a guy taking a quarterback here. So I got to think that Jackson Dart probably is not going to be there when it gets back to me. Caleb Williams probably isn't, and maybe Justin Herbert isn't. I would be shocked if, those 3 guys are not gone when it gets back to me at the end of the 8th round. I'm going to live life on the edge a little bit. I think I'm going to wait. Well, let's see who they've got here at the running back and receiver. Let's check running or receiver first. We've got Rome Odunze, DK Metcalf, Marvin Harrison, and Cortland Sutton, Michael Wilson. All right, running back, we've got Chuba Hubbard, Jadarian Price, Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, and Rico Dowdle all there. Whew, boy, this is where your draft can really start to get away from you. There's nobody that I really love here at the running back position. I don't like Chuba Hubbard. I think that Jonathan Brooks is going to be more involved in that offense. I don't think they're going to be a very good offense. Jadarian Price is where my initial thought goes. I just talked about Stevenson, but he scares me with his fumbles. I think that this year they're going to be a lot less lenient on his fumbles and his ability, I guess. I think that could shift to Henderson's job before the season's over. Tony Pollard doesn't do anything for me. Rico Dowdle doesn't do anything. So I'm really looking at Jadarian Price, the exciting rookie running back in Seattle. Zach Charbonnet is starting the season on the PUP list. I think Jadarian Price could be a very good pick there. Let's see who else. Wide receiver Rome Odunze. He's okay. DK Metcalf, I steer clear of everywhere I can. And then you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. would be my wide receiver 3. I think for me, Jackson Dart is very exciting and I think could be very, very good. I'm not going to reach on a quarterback here. I'm going to go with Jadarian Price and I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr., somebody that I have pounded the table for this offseason. Marv, you got to do it for me this year. I think I'm the last person in the world defending you anymore. Come on, Marv. Let's do it this year. Talent is there. Ability is there. We got to make it happen this year or it's never going to happen. So we'll wait and see who comes back to me here at the end of the 8th round. So Jackson Dart ended up going at the 7.7, Justin Herbert at the 7.8, and then all the way back at the 8.8, Dak Prescott went, and then the pick before me is Caleb Williams. So none of those four quarterbacks are back to me, which is a real bummer because now I'm left with Trevor Lawrence, who I've gone on record saying I'm not a huge fan of taking. But now I think every team has a quarterback, which is a good spot to be because you know that they're probably not going to take a quarterback. Okay, team 11 is still hanging out here, no quarterback. They've got every receiver in the world, though. They went 5-6 receivers in a row to start the draft before taking Aronde Gadsden and Ramondre Stevenson on their team. But we're in a good spot where we know that probably no other quarterback is going to be taken before they get back to me here. So that frees me up to not have to take a quarterback here in the 8th and 9th round. I could still end up with a guy like Patrick Mahomes, Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix, guys that I really like. Malik Willis could be a streaming option as the season goes on. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Tyler Shuck. When you're one of those last teams to take a quarterback, you've got to be looking at the upside and you've got to be able to pivot from week to week, be able to drop guys, stream guys, whatever it is. And here we are, the 11th team to take a quarterback, it looks like, 11th or 12th team. So that frees things up for me. So I'm going to take a look now at the running back position. Taking a look at my roster right now, we are looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, Cam Skattebo, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Brock Bowers, Jadarian Price at the flex at the moment, Marvin Harrison Jr., and then I've got 3 bench spots open plus a quarterback. So I'm going to look here at the best value and not necessarily the ADP at this point in the draft, because when you get to these later rounds, you've got to take some upside guys that you think are going to smash those ADPs. I look at a guy like Blake Corum, who I'm super high on as a Michigan Wolverines fan. I know what he can do. I think Kyren Williams' production or opportunity has come down the last couple of years now with Corum there. And I think as the season went on last year, that became more of a 50-50 time split. I think that they really like Corum and what he brings to that offense. And I could see him getting more of an opportunity there. A guy like Kenny Gainwell, they brought him in to be with Bucky Irving. Bucky feels like one of the most, avoid players in fantasy right now. I think Kenny Gainwell's going to have a bigger role than a lot of people think. And then I look over at the wide receiver position. You've got Jordan Addison, who I've been on record saying I'm steering clear of that. Quentin Johnston, Michael Pittman, same thing as DK. I'm just not sure how big of a passing offense that's going to be with 95-year-old Aaron Rodgers at the helm. And then you've got a guy who I really like is Wan'Dale Robinson. Might end up reaching on him just a little bit here. I'm going to go with, let's see, we're trying to take upside here. And so I'm going to go with a guy who I think could take over. Obviously, anything happens to Kyren, Blake Corum instantly is a top 10 running back. I really like the upside there. And then I'm going to take the upside on a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, who comes in to play along Carnell Tate there in Tennessee with Brian Daboll as the OC. There's a lot of familiarity there. Wan'Dale obviously had some big games for the Giants. I think the upside for Wan'Dale Robinson late in the draft is pretty high. I don't like taking him in the 9th, but like I said, you've got to let that draft come to you a little bit, and sometimes you have to reach for some of those guys because there's probably no way he's still there when it comes back to me. He would have probably been picked in this, 10th round, early in the 10th round. That was where his ADP was. So now it gets back to me, and Team 11 does take Matthew Stafford off the board. We took a few quarterbacks. Okay, these teams are loading up on 2 quarterbacks. So now we're in a real world of hurt. We've got Patrick Mahomes came off the board right after me. Trevor Lawrence came off the board. Brock Purdy, Matt Stafford, and Jared Goff just went off the board. We will take a guy here in the end of the 10th round, a guy who really showed last year that he could be a top 10 quarterback. They go and they bring in Jalen Waddle, who I think could be a really big piece to that Denver Bronco offense. I'll take Bo Nix coming off of the injury is a little frightening, but I'll go ahead and take Bo Nix. And then I'm going to pair him with another quarterback. Let me make sure here. that there's not any other picks that we want to take. I really like Jonathan Brooks, like we talked about. Not really any receivers that stick out. Xavier Worthy, I think, could be a breakout candidate, but we're going to stick with the quarterback position just for the sake of this draft and trying to make it as real as possible. Bo Nix coming off of that injury. I don't feel great about having him as my starting quarterback in week one. We look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who is also coming off of some injuries himself. He's in a contract dispute, as we can see here. But you look at him, he was the number 12 quarterback last year. He played every game last year, up and down at times, but he's got Emeka Ibuka there. I really like him. Chris Godwin should be back fully healthy. I think that's going to be a better team this year, better offense this year. Jordan Love is there. A lot of questions with that Packers offense. Kyler Murray up and down. I'm going to go ahead and take the absolute upside swing here with my last pick and take quarterback Tyler Shook. He finished as quarterback 26 last year, but you see once he took over in week 9, didn't play those first 8 weeks, took over in week 9 and went 15, 16 points, had a bye, went 18.9, 16, 19, 19, 20, 20, 20. He finished on kind of a tear here. I know that it's not the greatest competition here with Carolina, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa Bay, Carolina, the Jets, Tennessee. I understand that that's not ideal, but I think Tyler Shook in the last round has a lot of upside that I really like. He's got some new targets to throw to. Jordan Tyson and Chris Olave is there, obviously. I think Tyler Shook and the Saints could surprise a lot of people. So I'm going to go ahead and take him with my last pick, and we'll see how this season pans out. Again, I don't love picking at one end or the other of the draft just because you wait so long. And if you miss out on a guy or you miss out on a position, you can see, just like we saw with the quarterback position, they went on a run there. And that makes me even more glad that I took Brock Bowers there in the third round of my draft, because when those player runs happen and you are sitting there with 24 picks in between your picks, whatever, it's a very helpless feeling to know that, oh my gosh, I just missed out on the entire run of this position. And now I'm going to have to throw out some random tight end every week because I'm lost. Unfortunately, that happened to us with the quarterback. Waited just a little too long. I didn't think that these sleeper bots would take 2 quarterbacks with the 4 bench spots, but they did. I was really hoping to take a Patrick Mahomes or Trevor Lawrence or Brock Purdy in that 10th round, but nonetheless, we end up with Bo Nix in the quarterback position. Jahmyr Gibbs, Cam Skattebo are my running backs. A.J. Brown and Mike Evans are my wide receivers. Brock Bowers at tight end. Jadarian Price at the flex at this moment. And then my bench is Marvin Harrison, Blake Corum, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Tyler Shook. Not the strongest bench, but in that end of the draft position or beginning of the draft, however you want to look at it, I had to take some swings at some upside positions there. I really like my starting lineup. If Bo Nix can return to form of what he was last year, maybe even get a little uptick with Jalen Waddle, I like him at my quarterback position, gives me a little bit of a rushing floor. And then obviously Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is going to be the number 1 player in fantasy football this year. Cam Skattebo, I think, is going to take that leap from year 1 to year 2 under Coach John Harbaugh with a lot of touchdowns this year. A.J. Brown and Mike Evans, I believe, are going to score a lot of touchdowns as well. And then Brock Bowers is in a Clint Kubiak scheme, and we saw what he did for JSN last year. He's very good at getting his best players the ball. I think Brock Bowers is going to smash this year in fantasy football and in real life football as well. I think Marv has a bounce back year 3. I think he starts to live up to those expectations and takes off this year. And then, like I talked about, Corum, he could be thrust into a top 10 position here anytime if Kyron goes down with anything, or if he just takes that job from him. Wan'Dale Robinson could be the wide receiver 1 in Tennessee. Carnell Tate looks to be the real deal, but it helps to have that NFL experience that Wan'Dale has. And then we took that last round swing with Tyler Shook. Let me know Where do you agree with my picks? Where do you not agree with them? Is my team terrible? Is it good? Is it great? Let me know down in the comments who you would have taken in some of these picks, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.